Hey guys, my name is Carl. I'm with Technical Enduro Skills Training School. Today we'll talk about Michelin's choice of enduro tires, both front and rears. So Michelin make a really wide range of tires for all disciplines, including motocross, enduro, adventure, road, as well as mountain bike. We'll cover the enduro tires specifically today. We use these tires at the school when we're training, but also when we're competing in events globally. Romaniacs, 6-day crazy job in Bulgaria, Roof of Africa, Impi Enduro in South Africa, etc. Events in Wales and so forth. Every tire has its merits. We choose them for the track and for the conditions. And also in some cases you might make a choice based on budget. But we'll talk through all of these tires today. We'll tell you our opinion on some of them. Today we'll be looking at 5 tires, 2 fronts and 3 rears. There's the narrower 1990 front and the wider 9100 front, as well as the Michelin Medium Enduro tire, the Extreme Super Soft tire, and also the brand spanking new Tracker tire. We'll talk to you about each of these individually and tell you our opinion and what we use them for and when we choose one tire over another tire. Let's look at the front tires. So these are both 21 in diameter. You've got the slightly narrower 1990 on your left, and then on your right you've got the 9100. We choose to run the narrower front tire when we want more direct steering. It's good for high-speed events. You get a lot of feedback out of the narrower front tire. It has less of a desire to want to climb out a rut, so it stays in a rut really nicely, tracks the ruts extremely well. It also works really well on leaned over grass tracks. Very good at high-speed enduro events. The other time when we'll choose to run this is for a very, very, very wet, muddy, sloppy events when you want your tire to cut through into the mud and find grip sort of in the slop itself. The wide tire in those conditions can be a bit floaty and a little less direct. So very good high speed or really, really, really wet, messy, deep, muddy conditions, the narrow tire. We switch to the wider tire when we do hard or extreme enduro events, predominantly because you're on the bike for 6, 8, 9 hours a day. The higher volume makes the tire a bit more comfortable to ride. It gives you that tiny bit more suspension in your front. It has a larger contact patch, and so when you're traversing really steep off cambers, you're climbing over roots, you're riding over rocks, this tire just seems to be a bit more consistent over those sort of nasty bits that you come across in some of the world's sort of extreme and hard enduro events. When it comes to what I use, I personally prefer the wide tire 95% of the time. I've never found the limitation of this tire at the speed I ride at, and I predominantly focus on trialsy and extreme and hard enduro events. That's more my thing. I've used the narrow during some really wet events. We recently did the Boxing Day Enduro. There was a lot of rain leading up to that event. It was one of the wettest events that we've probably done in the last 2 years. The narrow front was really, really good there. It definitely worked. But when I got back, cleaned the bike, switched back to the big tire. Great on obstacles, rocks, logs, roots, anything like that. And not bad at high speed either. I'd say that some people, as on occasion, run a smaller mousse in the bigger tire to make it squat more. We used to do that many years ago. I think now we run the correct mousse for this tire. Our speed has increased, and I think we enjoy the tire sort of sitting more in its designed shape. It feels better when you're cornering. It's a bit more consistent. It's a bit more predictable as well. You never feel like the tire is getting away from you in the corners. You know when you're on the edge of it, and you know when you can bring it back. So 95% of the time, the wider front is my personal choice. My son Jake races at expert level in extreme enduro events as well. He also personally rides with the 9100 most of the time, and will only switch to the really narrow front when it's an extremely rutty event, either a wet sloppy one, or you just happen to be at a place where the terrain dictates that your tire would want to climb out of the ruts and stuff. Then if time is of the essence, this is the tire that he'll go for in those specific conditions. At our Enduro school, we've chosen very deliberately to work with Michelin as a manufacturer and also Enduro Tyres as a UK supplier. The guys over at Enduro Tyres are racers themselves. You'll bump into them at many events. They know what they're talking about. They support the UK Enduro scene probably better than most other companies that I've seen. They carry a huge range of tyres in stock. If you call them up, your tyres with you the next day. Generally so, yeah, do check them out. As for Michelin, they put a lot of money into research of their compounds and their tyres. Their tyres may be considered a premium in some ways, but it's for good reason. The compounds have been tested and designed specifically to provide a lower wear but still give you maximum grip, as well as the fact that as a manufacturer they support many organizations in the UK. They work with the likes of the ACU, they work with the likes of the TRF, and you know, there's not many tire manufacturers that put so much into the sport. The next tire we'll be talking about is the brand spanking new Michelin Tracker tire. Very exciting new tire from Michelin, born out of a blend of trials, motocross and enduro, tested by a number of top level pros around the world. It's got a symmetrical tread pattern. It's a bi-directional tire, so you can turn this tire and run it in any direction to regain some sharpness in the treads. It is a nice sticky compound, but yet the knobs are relatively firm on this tire. It's road legal. It has tread pattern wear indicators to stay inside the law. It has a nice firm sidewall. I can see people running this with tubes on the road. I can also see people using mousses if using this in an event. It's a great tire to save yourself some time because you can literally take this to the motocross track. You can do trail riding with this tire. You can compete in an event with this tire if that particular event doesn't require FIM certification. Fantastic new tire. It feels great. It looks great. I can see this becoming a very popular tire in the UK, especially considering the price point. I certainly wouldn't consider it a budget tire. It doesn't feel that way, but it's probably one of the lowest price Michelin tires that you can buy. Fantastic tire. Check it out. The next two tires we'll be talking about are the Michelin Medium Enduro on your left and the new Michelin Extreme tire on your right. The Michelin Medium Enduro tire is pretty much our go-to tire for everything. We use this trail riding in Wales. We use this competing in events, not only here in the UK at Hare and Hounds, time cards and extreme events, but we also have used this extensively abroad in Bulgaria and in other races. It's been around for a little while here in the UK and also on the international market. Fantastic tire. It's a new volume, and so it's paired with a new Michelin mousse. It's slightly bigger. It provides a better contact patch. The new compound has also been designed to last at least 15% longer than the previous tire that it's replacing. I can't say enough good things about this tire. This is absolutely our go-to tire wherever we ride, in pretty much any conditions that we ride. On your right, this is a brand new and super exciting tire. The Michelin Extreme. This is the tire that you've seen on a number of pros last year in competing in the WES series, and the guys winning some of the best events. Manny won WES, and Manny was using this specific tire. It is super sticky. I mean, it is an unbelievably sticky compound. The knobs are incredibly malleable on this tire, but they feel as if they'll stand up to abuse pretty well. In terms of looks, they look fairly similar in tread pattern and in volume and in size, but it's definitely on another level softer and more compliant than the Michelin Medium Enduro. The Michelin Extreme is your competition tire that you'll be choosing for competing in a UK based or an international extreme enduro. This thing is a monster, climbing rocks, climbing roots, climbing over logs, climbing off camber terrain. A phenomenally compliant tire that when you pair it with the right mousse at the right hardness level, just an unbelievably good tire. Slightly more expensive. Michelin are producing fewer of these right now. A huge amount of research has gone into this compound to make sure that it lasts as long as possible. There's no point being on the bike for 8 hours but you lose grip from your tire 4 hours into the event. You want the tire to get you to the end of the day, and when you're racing events like Romaniacs, 6-day crazy job in Bulgaria, you might be on the bike for 8 hours in a day, and you want the bike the tire to get you home. So fantastic new tire, definitely worthwhile for competition in the UK. Both tires are FIM certified, so if you're competing in an event that requires FIM certification, these are the two tires that you'll be choosing. There are a ton of tire fitting videos on YouTube, so I'm not going to try and make a new one. I just want to highlight one particular tip that makes your life incredibly easy when fitting a tire with a mousse in, using a rubber condor. I think that tip is often sort of glossed over in a lot of the videos, but it is the one thing that makes fitting the tire very, very difficult, is if you don't do it. So I'll show you real quick. So I've hooked it in. I just start using a couple of tire levers to move the tire around, get it onto and inside the bead very quickly, and at some point you'll see it's getting more difficult. Okay, this is because there's a steel wire inside the bead. That steel wire does not stretch. If you're Superman, you might break it, but then you ruin your tire. So the point is not to damage that steel wire, not to damage your rim. It doesn't have to be hard. All you've got to do is give that space, somewhere to go. The way to do that is to look to the opposite side of the tire and allow the opposite side of the tire to dip into the hollow of the rim, so that the next time I apply force, you'll see that it comes in. And you can just use your knee, just push that down a tiny bit. You can now see that it's in, and look at what happens when I pull this now. It slides more into the hollow of the rim, not using a huge amount of force. Really not that difficult. In fact, I can just now do the last bit of it by lifting this up, pushing the rim lock into the place where it's meant to go, popping that on. Dead simple. No need to be Superman, no need to break your rim.